Hello and welcome to NewsClick. Today we have with us Professor Jayati Ghosh, and we are going to discuss the recent summits that has been held in Brazil on BRICS and IPSA. BRICS and IPSA summits seem to have been indicating that the G20 is the solution to the problems of the world, and they are happy that they have come out of the grip of G7, as it were. Do you really think that this is something that is going to happen?
Well, G20 is certainly better than G7 or 8 or G2, G1, which is what it had become really, but it's clearly not democratic still. I think the problem is that when the global crisis broke, everyone really recognized that G8 had made a complete mess of it, and certainly the US, which has been pushing its particular form of financial liberalization on the rest of the world, was completely wrong in doing so. But then when G20 came, it was first of all an attempt to circumvent the United Nations, which had already taken a very strong and a very good stand on financial regulation. And secondly, it was an attempt to co-opt the more powerful developing countries into somehow preserving the global system as it is.
The BRIC as well as the IPSA summits seem to have indicated that they would like a complete overhaul of the IMF and World Bank, the two Bretton Woods institutions. Of course, the IMF and World Bank have been very skewed in their economic voting strengths. China has the same share of vote as Canada has, though its economy of Canada is much smaller. They've even given a deadline of November by which they would like this restructuring to take place. Do you think that this would really have any impact on the IMF, World Bank? Do you think that such a restructuring is possible?
Well, it's possible, certainly. I don't know if they're really asking for an overhaul. What they're really asking for is an increase in the voting rights of certain countries, a very small handful of countries. And it's not really, in that sense, a major transformation. They're asking for a few more voting rights to allow them to have slightly more say in some of the decisions of the IMF and the World Bank. But let's face it, many of these things they could have actually done already, even as G20, when they agreed to increase the funding of the IMF and the World Bank, effectively brought the IMF back from the dead because it suddenly got an infusion of funds and was relevant once again. They could have at that point stipulated that the IMF had to reform its policies. They didn't. So increasing voting rights may make a few executive directors from some countries feel a little more powerful. I don't see it as doing very much more than that.
And also asking that the heads of this organization should not be the US and the European Union, which is what it had also by virtue of the voting strength.
I think, look, there's nothing wrong with that. Of course, I mean, we would all like to see a bit more diversity, but I think we have to recognize that there's a difference between symbolic and cosmetic changes and real changes. Changing the head of the organization, I mean, the UN has had heads from different countries and typically from very small developing countries as well. That hasn't really changed the fundamental proclivity of the UN, the Security Council, to do the bidding of the great powers.
The reserve currency of the world is the US dollar. There was some talk in Ekaterinburg, the previous BRIC summit, that there should be really no such reserve currency of the world. It should be expanded SDRs and so on. This summit seems to have gone back a little on that and talked about stabilizing the major currencies. Do you think this is something significant, or what was the reason for the shift?
Well, unlike several others, I have never really seen the SDR as a viable alternative reserve currency, for the simple reason that the SDR is just a weighted average of the four major currencies. Now, countries that are worried about one currency or the other losing value will simply hold their reserves in the ratio that they want to hold, and of the four major currencies, and therefore it doesn't really make such a big difference. Let's face it, that the dollar is not the world's reserve currency because there is some international law making it so. It's because countries want to hold the dollar. And why do they hold the dollar? Because they see the United States still as, in a sense, the leader of the global economy. It's not a very effective leader, it's not an efficient leader, it is increasingly a less powerful leader. But at the moment, there's no alternative. It is still the main leader.
Do you think that China also has a vested interest in having dollar as a reserve currency because they hold the largest foreign reserves in dollars?
Well, it's a complicated situation with China. First of all, they don't want the dollar value to fall too much because they hold a lot of dollars, of course. But they also don't want the dollar value to fall too much because they're exporting to the US. And they need to have their exports being competitive. So I don't think, you know, the whole talk about the international reserve currency and somehow making an SDR a viable alternative, it forgets about international political economy. It forgets that money is about power and international money is about international power.
Coming back to the issue of really the IMF and the World Bank. Now, the major criticism of the IMF and the World Bank have been their policies. The fact that they really open up the third world economies, so-called privatization, which is really distressed sale of the national assets, financial opening of their markets and so on. On this, the BRIC as well as the IBSA seems to be quite silent. Do you think they have any position on this, or the structural change that they are talking about effectively would still underpin the same economic policies?
Yes, I think that's the worst part of, in fact, the BRICS, IBSA, G20, what have you, is that they have reinforced an IMF which is essentially unreconstructed in terms of its policies. When the crisis broke, the IMF said, oh, mea culpa, we were wrong, we have to actually change, we're going to provide unconditional and counter-cyclical lending. But what do? They didn't do that. All the 11 countries that have had to go to the IMF have had all the usual adjustment measures: cut public spending, cut pensions, cut public borrowing, etc., etc. All the usual kinds of things which actually make a recession worse. So the tragedy is that this was a period when the IMF really could have been told that you have to give non-conditional counter-cyclical lending. They were not. What has happened is a basically cosmetic change. In terms of the actual impact of the IMF in most of the developing countries that have had to go for the money, it's just the same.
So the BRICS IBSA call really is for change of personnel, change of the guard as it were, but no fundamental change in the direction of the policies of the IMF and the World Bank.
Yes, and I think that reflects a deeper problem, which is that, now unfortunately too much of the mainstream press presents all these issues as a clash between countries. It's not, it's a clash between classes. The problem with the IMF, with the World Bank, with the WTO, with policies of the United States is that they reflected the interests of large multinational capital. What we have now with more people at the high table, more countries represented at the high table, is that larger segments of international large capital are being represented. We have to get to a point where BRICS and IBSA reflect the will of the people of these countries, not the capital of these countries.
So basically a more democratization of the corporate capitalist world in that sense.
That's right.
That you get the Reliances and the Mittals also a seat at the high table,
Exactly.
represented by the government of India and probably
And
civil interests
Thai
in Brazil
corporate
and
capital and Singapore corporate capital and Brazilian capital and so on and so forth.
Thanks, Jayati. This has been a very interesting discussion. We'll come back again on these issues. I think the economic crisis is with us for some more time.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you.